longtime MVU teacher, has joined us. Jason, unavailable tonight, says he'll be back with us for the November election. And I guess at Bridget's suggestion, great suggestion, we're happy to have St. Albans Mayor Tim Smith with us on the panel as well.
Hello, Richard.
Tim, good to see you. And I think, some big news here. I think we can safely report that you have been re-elected to a fourth two-year term as mayor of St. Albans City. No challenges from a family member this time around?
None that I know of, and it's still unofficial, Richard.
Still unofficial? But it sounds like you have a fourth term running unopposed.
I expect that will be the case, yes.
Very
Thank
good.
you.
We don't have Ward, of course, there was a contest initially in Ward 5
There
for
was.
Bob Farrar, the incumbent, running for re-election against Eric Johnson, and then Bob, about a week ago, had the news that he was withdrawing because, I guess, of a possible conflict of interest with his job as Franklin County probate court judge, but he's still on the ballot, of course. So,
Yeah,
and
the timing was such that he couldn't come off the ballot, so
Right.
we still haven't seen what the breakout is on what the vote is, but either way, Eric ultimately will fill that seat.
Right, and I assume with the news that the messenger certainly gave it some attention. I did, I guess with that news, you would think Eric Johnson would probably get the most number of votes. If perchance he didn't, I guess we'd go to the city council, and the council would presumably appoint Eric. But I suspect I suspect he'll get the most votes.
That's the expectation, and the same with Ward 6.
Of course, with Chad Spooner seat, nobody filed for that.
That's correct, and so there was a run-in campaign, but I understand that there were not enough votes that were received, so the council will address that at our next meeting as well.
And it sounds like there might be a candidate or two. There are a couple names have come up.
Definitely one
At least
name that
one.
was interested.
That's good.
He just did not generate enough write-ins. So.
How many do you need? 30 write-ins?
30 write-ins.
While we've got you, St. Albans City budget was before voters, a little under $14 million. That was approved about, what, 2 to 1 or so?
About 2 to 1. I think it was 660 to 330 or something in that range.
And the other big article was the kind of continuing with the TIF, the tax increment financing initiatives, looking for $11.4 million. And
I haven't seen any numbers on that yet, but I would expect it went hand in hand with the budget vote.
right. Bridget, I guess and you've done some fine reporting on this. It's, I guess, the obvious big story statewide, just a school budget controversy for months now. There's been talk about maybe, 20% increase in property taxes. Act 127 getting beat up, the legislature jumping in with kind of an 11th hour, I guess, kind of Band-Aid thing. But give us a little lowdown. And you've done, again, some good reporting, explaining an absurdly complicated situation to me anyway.
Sure, yeah. So it seems like, at least for the last couple of years, education spending in Vermont has grown. And, as you just said, it was sort of predicted to be an 18 to 20% increase this year. And a lot of that is coming from, deferred maintenance costs to buildings, trying to retain and hire staff, especially in more rural areas. And coming out of the pandemic, a lot of students needed more mental health supports, sort of these instructional coaches and other sort of staff positions that maybe were funded through the elementary and secondary school relief funds through the federal government that now schools sort of want to localize in their own budgets to keep those people on and working. And so all of that has grown the education fund, and schools need more money in that sense. And so now we're left with the question of how we're all going to pay for that.
Right.
All these things that we say are essential and that we need, but what are we going to do to fund that for sure?
Right. And I think one of the things that just drives a lot of people understandably crazy is, a local school board may be doing very good work on the budget, but still, even if they're not increasing it too much, money goes into the state education fund, and so what happens locally doesn't necessarily translate into keeping school tax rates low locally.
Right, exactly. The Maple Run Unified School District budget, for example, is not funded solely by taxpayers from St. Albans and Fairfield. It's from folks across the state, and then the state. Each district gets their portion of the pot.
And Maple Run, for example, up to about $76 million, up about $7 million. But I think you've talked to Bill Kimball, the superintendent. I have, and in his kind of letter that went out to folks who got the messenger at least, think you mentioned for them to have cut down what the school tax rate would have been just incredible layoffs and stuff.
Right, yeah, could have come from quite a few, cutting quite a few teacher positions, although they would have said they would have looked at other avenues, but I don't think that's something anybody wants.
Tim, you're running into just a lot of concern out there about school budgets.
Yes, Richard, I think probably the most confusing thing for folks is no one really knows what the impact to their tax bill is. And you won't know until you get your tax bill. Unlike the city, we knew exactly, we could educate the voters that we knew for a $200,000 house that the increase was going to be $11.06 or whatever it was. If it was a $300,000 house, it was going to be $18. But when you vote on the school budget, no one has a clue as to what the impact is until you get and I don't think the democratic way should be that way, right? You should know all the details before you go in the voting booth to know what the impact is, and it's a system that doesn't allow for that. So it is a concern, and I think it's a concern for a lot of folks. It's going to be interesting to see how not only Maple Run, but MBU, Franklin Northeast Supervisor. It's going to be interesting to see how they all do moving forward.
And I sure think there's a lot of predictions that a number of school budgets may well go down. Seems like maybe even conventional wisdom. I guess we'll see.
Right. I was sort of standing outside the Swanton poll today and doing, a little bit of exit polling, asking folks what was important to them, and the school budget came up several times, and just of the handful of people I spoke to, most of them were talking about it in a negative way, and they thought it was too much this year. And so that was only a small sampling of the people who voted in Swanton today, but it is interesting for sure.
Interesting. What other issues besides the school taxes and property tax rates and stuff? What other big issues were jumping out at you? Any other kind of general issues? And I guess affordability, stuff that the governor loves to talk about, just kind of in general. But besides school taxes, I mean, there's some big projects here and there around the county.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. In Swanton, they had quite a few different things on the ballot, as you know. The new public safety facility, their potential expansion of their police department for Swanton Town residents. And in Highgate, too, they had talking about their village core and what they want that to look like, sort of the vision for that area in terms of their wastewater and sewer and different things that they need up there to make that possible.
Yep, I did catch the Highgate Town meeting, kind of sad from a reporter point of view to report it's the last one, unless they go back and opt for the traditional New England Town meeting. And last year, it was on before voters and they tabled it. This year, it was about a 4-hour meeting and got about an hour and a half worth of discussion, very strong feelings both ways. And I kind of thought that Australian ballot would win out. It was actually a closer vote than I thought, but 79 to 69. Highgate residents decided in the future to vote public questions and budgets by Australian ballot.
Sure.
But again, you mentioned the village core issue, two kind of related issues with moving ahead with the wastewater facility system in the village core area. And I was sitting, and we're going to be hearing from Sharon Bousquet in a while, the Highgate Town Administrator, sitting right next to Sharon. And just from the debate, I said, "What do you think, Sharon?" And she said, "Well, I don't know. I thought it was going to be a very close vote." And I was stunned by the 2-to-1 approval. That article got 100 to 52. And the next kind of related article about the Cathedral Square senior housing, again, a lot of discussion, but that eventually was approved on a voice vote. So, and just to finish out Highgate, all the other money articles made it. One kind of the last thing that happened at the Highgate meeting, a little interesting. This was under other business, and a lot of folks were concerned, hey, we've done away with the traditional town meeting, but let's kind of have a informal town meeting last year. Well, there'll be an informational meeting, which there always is. I guess municipalities have to do that in school districts, which nobody shows up for. So they'll have an informational meeting for what that's worth. But there was a young woman, I didn't get her name, but very concerned about what's going on in Gaza. So under other business, her motion was to adopt a resolution calling for an immediate ceasefire, permanent ceasefire, and stopping U.S. funding for Israel. And that didn't get too far. There were a couple of, when it came up for a voice vote, a couple of yays, but mostly nays. But that was how the Highgate meeting ended. But there was a lot of stuff with that Highgate meeting.
Yeah.
Just to that point, Richard, I think a lot of, and I would say smaller towns, not a lot, but there was a few that I read about that brought up that same,
Same
over the
issue,
weekend,
I bet.
brought up the same motion. I can't think of what the names are. Maybe Thetford was one of the towns. I
Interesting.
can't think of what the others were, but it seems to be on some folks' minds for sure.
No, Vermont town meetings often get into stuff like that. I can think of Vermont Yankee back in the old days when Vermont Yankee plan was getting kind of controversial. Did you run into hear about any issue like that anywhere in the county?
No, I went to Georgia today to their town
Oh, really?
meeting.
And they had the same issue on whether to go to Australian ballot.
Right. I didn't hear the result of that yet,
Okay,
so I am
okay.
going to be curious.
One
when
of the
that comes
assistant
about.
town clerks, when I was in there the other day, predicted strongly that they would stick with the traditional town meeting, but hopefully we'll get that result later.
Yeah, see.
So
But
Georgia.
they were talking quite a bit about ARPA dollars, the American Rescue
Oh,
Plan Act funds, and how to spend those, even though there was some discussion about, even though the select board has already designated most of those funds for various projects, then there were sort of residents speaking up a little bit late to the game about, how they should be used and if they should be used, and some little bit confusion about what they are. And so, that was curious, because they do have to be designated in 2024, ARPA dollars, and then spent by 2026. So I do think that'll be sort of a continuing conversation throughout this year, and then, of course, the next two as well, as we see sort of what they build in our communities.
All right. Tim, while we've got you for the whole show, lucky us, again, the municipal budget in St. Albans approved by about 2-1. Not much of an increase. You pretty much held the line on spending pretty well with your municipal budget.
Yeah, 0.6% increase.
And that sounds like pretty close to holding the line, huh?
Yes, for sure. But even then, I think, as I mentioned, it was 360 no votes, which, there's still concerns about cost of living,
Yeah.
affordability, that type of stuff. I do believe that, the TIF discussion has made a huge difference for the city of St. Albans to level fund budgets, because the grand list continues to grow. And the only reason it is growing is because we've had the TIF for 10 years, and we've made the most of it under the leadership of Dominic Cloud. So I think a lot of people still don't understand the TIF based on some interaction I saw on Facebook.
And so you're suggesting you saw some misinformation on Facebook?
Not
that
one
on
or two
Facebook.
comments.
I'm stunned to hear that.
One or two comments, Richard. And I think people just don't truly understand it. And I don't want to mislead anyone. There is a possibility that it could be paid by the city, but we have positioned ourselves so well, I think, to our debt. Currently, I think our Chief Financial Officer, Sarah Macy, brought it up at our public hearing that out of our $21 million in debt to date, we've paid off $14 million of it.
Really?
So, and we expect to continue down that road. So, but the TIF has been huge for the city of St. Albans.
And somebody tells me State Auditor Doug Hoffer will never change his opinion about TIFs. And talking about Highgate and Sharon Bousquet, I think Sharon is set to join us, the Highgate Town Administrator. Sharon, are you out there?
I am out here.
Hey, good. Hey, thanks for, again, I was telling Bridget and Tim that sitting close to you at the Highgate Town meeting, and a lively town meeting it was, 4 hours worth of some pretty robust, sometimes emotional debate, and that's going to be the last of the traditional Highgate Town meetings, I guess.
Yes, I think a lot of people were sad about that, but I think in the end it came down to having equal representation from all of the voters.
Yeah, and again, I think you can clearly, I mean, I think reporters love a traditional town meeting, but turnout-wise, if my math was right, I think with the turnout, I mean, the folks deciding the issues today, a number of issues was about 6% of registered voters, between 6 and 7%, which is not exactly a lot of folks to be deciding a lot of money issues and other issues.
No, that's true, and today was an extremely large crowd for us.
In fact, I think about twice as big as last, that's right, it was about 150 people voting. Yeah, much bigger than usual. So you had a pretty good day as the administrator. A couple of big issues which we touched on, the village core issues, but you had a pretty good day up there.
We did. We we're feeling confident going in, and then in the last 2 weeks, we had heard more and more possibly misinformation on social media and loud backlash from a few of our residents who perhaps didn't have the full story. Everyone is certainly entitled to their opinion. We just try our best to make sure everybody has the facts going into this and hopefully make an informed decision. We were very fortunate today to come out almost with a 2/3 positive vote, both on our village wastewater system and on the Cathedral Square sale. So we are delighted. I have a group of Village Core Master Plan Committee members that are ecstatic. And my advice to them was, now that we have gotten the trust of our taxpayers, now it's our job to make this happen. So we have a lot of work to do.
Bridget, you want to jump in with Sharon?
Yeah, sure. Hi, Sharon. I guess tell us a little bit about what those next steps with the committee are going to be.
Great question.
So for us, for the village wastewater, we're still in the final design plan. We have still some archaeological stuff that has to be done. And once we get our permits from Act 250 and the state engineers, we'll be able to apply for our wastewater permit. And once that all goes through, then we can hopefully get our final design to a bid document and put that out for bid and go forward further. We've had some residential interest already and some commercial interest for this wastewater system, so we're excited that this will be a good thing for the town.
Good. That's great.
Our town tends to feel skeptical of change, but I think that happens a lot in small towns. So this is a big change for them. We get it. And we know times are tough. People don't want their taxes to go up. But we're hoping in the end that this is truly a blessing between the wastewater system and Cathedral Square. Is a good thing for our town.
Absolutely.
Tim, I know in your day job as Executive Director of Franklin County Industrial Development Corporation, the Village Core proposals, I think you're very high on these. Sounds like a very good thing for Highgate.
Well, I think so, and I think Sharon's done a great job, and then Heidi Valenta before in moving Highgate forward. Both the Highgate Airport was a big discussion last year, and now the Village Core. I think Sharon talks about misinformation, but I commend Sharon and the Select Board over the years have really worked hard to get the correct information out there. They've had, and I worked with Sharon a little bit on the airport. They held dinners at the arena. They got posters out. They work hard to get the true information out, and then some people may choose to accept it and some don't, but you can't fault Sharon and the Select Board for their efforts in getting the proper information out there. So Sharon, congratulations on that.
Thank you very much.
Sharon, some interesting comments today. And again, at town meeting, you're going to get comments all over the place, but a lot of questions about Cathedral Square. Some folks, in fact, one lady said, hey, we may be overrun with homeless people from Burlington, getting those 30 units. And I think the same person made a reference to Burlington being a sanctuary city. If it is, Highgate could be a sanctuary town. And again, I realize Cathedral Square, they're already taking, I guess, a waiting list. But Tim, again, they'll have a presence in the city. Sounds like Cathedral Square has a very solid track record.
Yeah, there's already a current development that's been there for decades on North Elm Street, and there's been no issues there.
Yeah.
I think they have a great management team, and I would expect the same to be the same in Highgate. So, I think what it does for you is it has that more seniors moving into a place place, getting out of their homes that may be too big, too difficult to maintain.
Freeing up some homes, obviously,
And freeing
hopefully.
up homes for families to
Yeah.
move into the area. So I think it's more of an issue with families moving into town than the homeless, in my opinion.
And
Yeah,
Sharon, it
that's-
came up at the, sorry, Bridget, I'll get back to you in a
That's okay.
second. Came up at the meeting, I guess you're encouraging people who might want to live in the 30-unit senior housing project to get their name on a waiting list. But again, it can't just be Highgate residents, but that was, a concern that was voiced today, but hopefully a number of Highgate residents will get those 30 units if this comes to pass, but people should maybe move on that if they have any thoughts about maybe living there in the future.
Yes, I know we have roughly a dozen people on that inquiry list already with Cathedral Square. And 2 people approached me after the meeting and said, "Can you give me the number? I want to call today." I'm like, "I will get you the number, don't worry. We want you to be able to get in if you can." Cathedral Square cannot limit it just to Highgate. It's federal dollars, which means we have to apply the same standards for federal dollars and can't discriminate like that.
Right. Bridget, another question for Sharon?
Yeah, sure. It was going to be a comment, I guess, turned into a question in that, the Village Core project really does seem to be cross-generational in many ways, in that, you've got the Cathedral Square senior housing that maybe will free up some single-family homes for younger people in Highgate. The Village Core might also bring some other business potential to the area with, it might be a new restaurant or renovations to the library, which is great for families. So I don't know if, Sharon, you had anything else to maybe say about that, but that sort of cross-generational piece is very nice and appealing, I think, to people.
Yes, and I think it very much demonstrates what we want to have going forward, not only in our center, but in our community. We want to be a multi-generational community. We want to make sure that we take care of our children, but also our seniors and all the working people that are in between. We want our library to service all these people, our municipal to service all these people. We think all of these and all of our residents have an extreme high value. And we're hoping that we will be able to have a new library at some point, which we are doing a little capital campaigning now. But it makes sense to have a library in that village center with seniors. It goes hand in hand. There's programming. The senior center's next to the elementary school. It means maybe a host of new foster grandparents. It's close to the recreation center, so it gives programming there for the younger and older generations to mix. Life's tough for a lot of children. We understand that. But we have a lot of people in town that care, and I think this is just one more way to help that connection.
Sharon, I might throw in the close proximity to the Lamoille Valley Rail Trail as well, which offers a
Yes.
great exercise option for seniors as well.
Sharon, we're going to let you go. Thank you for joining. Thanks for checking in with us. And again, it sounds like you had a very good day in Highgate. We appreciate the time. Good luck with all your projects.
Well, thank you all very much, and Richard, it was lovely to see you at our meeting.
Hey, always good to see you. Thanks, Sharon. Sharon Busquet, the
Yeah.
Highgate Town Administrator. We're going to take a little break here from the panel. We've got some video coming up from Sheldon. Again, the hardworking folks here at Northwest Access TV made it to at least 5 towns today. And we've got some video coming up from Sheldon. We'll be back.
Starting us off this morning, leading us with the Pledge of Allegiance, is the Sheldon Girl Scout 63738, joined by a member of the Georgia Pack 842 Cub Scouts.
And to the republic for which it stands, one one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Now, if I could, I know you were standing once, but I'd ask you to stand if you so choose for a moment of silence for our members of the armed service who are serving, have served, or have committed the ultimate sacrifice. Thank you. Good morning and welcome to your 2024 Sheldon Town Meeting. Let me emphasize, this is your town meeting of the body. Today's meeting is going to be run under Robert's rules. That may not mean a whole lot to everybody here. It just so happens to be my first name, but it's not my rules, okay? They're rules of parliamentary procedure. So having said that, we will move back to Article 1A, to elect the following town officers as required by law. A moderator for a one-year term. Nominations are now open.
Nominate Robert Norris.
Robert Norris has been nominated for moderator for a one-year term. And we have a second. Thank you, Nancy. Okay, Robert Norris has been nominated for moderator for a one-year term. Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Seeing that, I will close the nominations for the moderator for a term of 1 year. Having said that, without objection, I'll have the clerk cast one ballot for Robert Norris. Article 1B, Select Board Member for a 3-year term. Are there any nominations?
Nominate Nick Norris.
Nick Norris has been nominated.
Second.
And we have a second. And third. Nick Norris has been nominated for Select Board Member for a term of 3 years. Are there any other nominations? Seeing no other nominations, I will close the nomination for the term of Select Board for a 3-year term. And without objection, I will ask the town clerk to cast one ballot for Nicholas Norris. Thank you. Article 1C, Select Board Member for a 2-year term. Nominations are now open. Yes.
I nominate Steve Dodd.
Steve Dodd has been nominated for a 2-year term. And Steve Dodd has been seconded for a 2-year term. Any other nominations? Seeing no other nominations, the nominations for Select Board Member for a 2-year term have been closed. Without objection, I will ask the town clerk to cast one ballot for Stephen Dodd. Once the voting started, John came up and brought to my attention that his last name is not Patterson. That's his girlfriend/fiance's last name. His last name is John Stryker. So if somebody has, and the voting came in as John Patterson, so I just want to bring this to your attention. If somebody has a problem with that, now's the time to mention it, and we will vote again on John Stryker, Jan Lanza, and Jessica Draper. We're actually calling the question now, which is Article 4. Shall the voters authorize total highway fund and general fund expenditures of $2,014,123, and of which $1,392,604 will be raised by local taxes. All those in favor of Article 4 signify by saying yea. Yea. Opposed, nay. It appears the yeas have it.
And good evening again, everyone. Richard Cowperthwait for Northwest Access TV, joined by Bridget Higdon with the St. Albans Messenger and St. Albans Mayor Tim Smith. I should note the just re-elected St. Albans Mayor Tim Smith. Just want to mention St. Albans Town, a couple of contested select board races in the town, with the two incumbents winning pretty handily. Brian Delorier, the town select board chair, defeating David McWilliams, 948 to 415, they may be unofficial numbers. And Jack Brigham also on the board of the vice chair, defeating the same, David McWilliams, 859 to 488. So the two incumbents reelected in St. Albans Town, where there's also, of course, a vote on the budget. And I guess we don't have the number on this, or do we have that, Bridget? Have you seen?
Yes, I have that.
Oh,
That's,
thanks. What was the
s-
budget for St. Albans Town?
Sure, 785 yes to 661 no.
Oh, so I guess you gave me those earlier. Thank you. I mean, approval. but
Fairly
not-
close, yeah.
Not exactly lopsided approval.
No.
And it was interesting. I'm used to St. Albans Town having a number of money articles. This year, they've kind of put everything
Right,
in the one budget.
into one, yeah.
And we've got
And
some.
that's a budget that includes, funding for the joint police department.
Good point. Right. We've got some new results coming in, and Paul Snyder, our executive director, on top of some new numbers. Paul?
Thanks, Richard. We did just talk to Sharon over in Highgate, give us some idea of what the day's events were in Highgate. But one thing to note was the authorization of cannabis retailers was voted down in Highgate, 320 to 274. And then also, just as we were in break, I received partial results from the school district in Enosburg-Richford. Enosburg voting down the budget 198 to 177, but then again, we still have to wait for Richford's numbers to come in before we get a clear picture of what that budget is going to look like, if it's approved or not.
Well, so
Back to you.
cannabis, sorry, yeah. In fact, there was a second article in Highgate about, did you get the Lister? Any numbers on the Lister issue? Highgate was voting whether to eliminate the office of
Yep, so
Lister.
they actually did eliminate, they voted to eliminate it 317 to 261.
To 261. Bridget, have you run, sounds like towns are just having trouble finding listers these days. Have you run into that in your reporting at all?
No, that's not something I have
that
looked
right?
into at all, but.
Tim, does that mean anything to you?
No,
much?
I'm curious how they will fill the
I guess
void.
I guess they eliminated the office of Lister, and the select board was authorized to hire a professional assessor, I guess is what they called it.
Okay.
So just to hire somebody to do the job that they, I guess, kind of can't find local people to do anymore. I guess seemed to be the issue. Anyway, so cannabis, yeah, I'd forgotten about that issue. That apparently wasn't up anyplace else in the county that
No, that
you're
was,
aware of?
that was the only place. It was only a handful in the whole state this time
Okay.
around, yeah.
And in the past, of course, St. Albans Town and Highgate Commons has a dispensary out there.
Right, yep,
So-
there's one up in Montgomery.
In Montgomery, too.
Mhm.
Actually, the town has two,
The town has two, I guess?
one across from Energizer,
Oh, really?
and then
Okay.
one up in the shopping center as
Okay,
well.
so the town has two, in fact, Montgomery one. I know it's come up in Richford. Did Richford vote that down maybe a time?
They did.
I
Yes,
think it came up last year, maybe.
yes. And
Interesting.
Swanton has voted it down as well,
Yeah.
yes.
Well, it sounds like correct me if I'm wrong, aside from budget, it sounds like the biggest kind of non-budget item in the county, biggest bond issue was certainly Swanton Village, the proposed public safety facility at about, $14 million plus, and the village officials even cut that price tag down from 19 million, but I guess taking out about 5 million that would have gone toward, I guess, renovation of the village complex. But boy, in fact, I made the point on earlier shows with just all the school budget controversy. I was just kind of thinking, boy, any municipality with a big local item like that,
Right.
I got to think all the school budget and school property tax controversy and concern not helping municipalities with a big local project, I wouldn't think, Tim.
I agree with you, and once again, we've talked about it off camera about no one really knows what the school impact is to their tax bill, and then to throw the police, the public safety building on top of that, it could be a substantial increase for any property owner. But then again, you don't know what the impact is going to be until you get your tax bill. So I think, and that's probably more to the school budget discussion than it is to the public safety discussion.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, I think it's going to maybe be a very noteworthy town meeting day, maybe kind of more noteworthy than the past.
I did have one question relative to
Yeah.
the Franklin Northeast Supervisory Union. We talked about Enosburg and Richford, but that union is 6 or 7 towns.
Right.
It's Bakersfield, it's Sheldon, it's
But Bakersfield and Richford are still together. They still have their own budget for those two, school budget for those two towns. And then
Right.
what Mountain Valley picks up, I think, what Bakersfield,
Northern Mountain
Berkshire,
Valley, yes.
Montgomery and Sheldon. So they
Yes.
split that
Oh,
up into kind of two
Okay.
local districts. But
Right.
yeah, the school situation's pretty wild.
Right. And, yeah, it'll be interesting to see whether there's maybe some potential further consolidation coming out of this budgetary talks in the legislature.
I think there's any, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people would love to say, hey, just scrap your current system and build it back, so, good luck doing that. Just seems like they keep, Act 60 kind of got things going, hey, we need to treat students everywhere across the state fairly, equally, whatever. And then we move into, then the consolidation, which certainly didn't seem to produce the savings that it was hoped to. And then Act 127, I just reread, it was in the Messenger a while ago, the superintendent from Lamoille South, I think, Mr.
Right.
Harity, calling it a dangerous piece of legislation that the legislature tried to undo a little bit, but, boy, it just sounds like a very difficult situation.
The one thing that disturbed me that I had heard, Richard, was that I heard multiple people say that if the school budget equation was easy to understand, that would not be good for schools and the students, which I don't totally understand that, but it seems like there's only about 6 people that currently understand the system. But I think communities, and I'm speaking for the city, we need to better understand how they get to the budget, or how do they get to the rate. In my opinion, it does need to be easier.
Sure, might help inform other decisions that are made within the municipality.
Yeah, boy. And of course, the legislative session moving along past the halfway point, so, boy, you think that issue, especially if a number of school budgets go down, you think the legislature would be taking a hard look at that somehow, but, boy.
Right, yeah, and it'll be interesting to see what else they can fit in when all of the talk is around education, whether they can tackle housing or climate or workforce, any of those things.
And that's a concern of the governor, right? That a number of the committees have budget increases or higher expenditures, and he's trying to talk those committees down that we just don't have. I think it was a increase of 300 million, and the state just doesn't have the resources to do that. So I'll be curious to see how that plays out as well.
And we have a couple of announcements at some point. Speaking of the governor, of course, he typically waits till after the legislature heads out of town to announce whether he'll run again. But of course, in his fourth 2-year term, and kind of lost in the shuffle. Some of my friends, when I mentioned, hey, Bernie Sanders is up this year. Oh, no, he's not up this year. Yeah, he's up this year. And Bernie, of course, loves to talk about his next election, whether he's going to run again. I'm kidding. The last thing he did. But he's up at some point. I trust we'll hear from Senator Sanders at some point. Anyway, we've got Eric Johnson joining us right now, candidate for Ward 5 City Council in St. Albans City. Eric, welcome, and can you tell us, did you in fact get the most votes?
Yeah, I get the unofficial email, if you guys can hear me, from our city clerk saying that I had 157 votes to 58. So, yeah, looks like I've secured it, hopefully.
Wow, congratulations.
Thanks.
So give us a little background. Again, your first bid for public office, your first time you've run for a public office?
Yep, first time running for public office. I've held multiple public board member roles, including the Downtown Board and Design Advisory Board, as well as other nonprofit organizations in and around the community. So this was the next logical step for me.
Interesting. It sounds like you worked pretty hard out there. Of course, you had a true contest for a while. Bob Farrar, the incumbent, you were challenging an incumbent, and then, as we reported a week or so ago, Bob Farrar withdrew from the race because of a possible conflict of interest with his job as the sitting Franklin County probate judge. But yeah, it sounds like you ran pretty hard, though. You gave us a good effort.
Yeah, with a marketing background and a communications background, I definitely focused on my strengths, trying to make sure I connect to the right people and also got out in front of people on multiple platforms, and I think that really helped me. So today was a bit of a long day. I get there at 6:45 and I get left around 5:30, 6 o'clock. So I say out of the whole campaign, today's was the most physically challenging,
I bet.
standing out there. So.
Tim, Bob Farrar, solid 3 years. Of course, Bob unseated an incumbent 3 years ago, Kate Laddison, but I know he worked very hard to win that race, but sounds like Bob was a worthy city councilor.
No, Bob did a wonderful job. It's, people feel comfortable having a lawyer on the council.
And he gave you two, of course,
Well,
with Tim
we
Hawkins
had
also,
two,
right?
right?
Used to be three with, you had three there, or you had two earlier with Mr. Pelkey, of course,
Right,
right?
yes, that's right, yeah.
Yeah.
Probably, that three was probably too many, Richard. But Eric, congratulations. I'm actually surprised at the number of votes that came out, 200. The ward races in the past have not really been, they've always been in that 100, 125, 130 range.
Yeah, that is a pretty good number.
It is, yeah, a very good number. So you worked hard. You made me feel guilty. You standing outside all day, and I was.
Tim, you didn't do that?
I did not
You
do
were
that,
that,
no.
you were that confident of winning?
I treated Eric to a donut afterwards.
I needed it at that point. I appreciate that.
Bridget, anything for Eric here?
Yeah, sure. Hello, Eric.
How's it going?
Good. I know something that you mentioned in your interview with the Messenger was economic development downtown, how you want to fill some storefronts. Can you talk about maybe the type of businesses you'd like to see downtown, or what sort of economic development means to you?
Definitely. I honestly can say that, you know, economic development on the larger scale means getting jobs in and around our town, including like industrial park, around the county, to fill positions for people that just are looking for the right type of jobs. People that can't afford to go to Burlington, or they've gone to Burlington but their family's here, so it's, you know, more taxing on their family to be away all the time. So it'd be nice to see that grow. And I know Tim's, you know, strength in that area. Been constantly working on that, so thank you, Tim. But I've done it as far as the storefronts go. I have a passion with the downtown, being as active in downtown for so long. I hear, you know, people talk about opening new restaurants, and that's always busy. Restaurants are always packed around town, so that's great, and that definitely brings in the additional servers and additional bartenders and cooks. So that's good growth. But also seeing stores like Little that just opened up, and other retailers that are going to bring back that small size store versus the big box stores. You know, bringing back that quality locally made products and the locally sourced or regionally sourced products that are, you know, curated for the people looking for that quality, but also bringing in those jobs as well. So I think that's kind of where I really like to see the economic growth, both small scale at the storefronts as well as the bigger scale. The storefronts really helping us economically as far as bringing in more people to the downtown area and the city, and then the larger one obviously to fit the jobs, the new apartment buildings going up for the working class, you know, helping fill their need as they move here for jobs locally, so they're not away constantly. As I said before, Vermont has plenty of bedroom towns like Milton, but St. Albans doesn't need to be one of them. We can be one of those growth centers for Vermont.
Eric, congratulations. Sounds like you're ready to jump into the city council.
I'm excited to begin. I'm excited to work next to Tim right there. So I think he's an excellent leader, and I'm looking forward to, you know, mentoring from him.
Very good. Hey, congratulations on your victory. We'll see how things are going on the council. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, we've got some, again, our hardworking folks who are all over Franklin County today. We've got some video coming up right now from the Bakersfield town meeting, and we shall be back in a bit.
Welcome to Vermont's 233rd town meeting day. For those who don't know me, my name is John West, and I've had the privilege of being your town moderator for the past year. All those in favor of John West being moderator for the ensuing year, please say aye. Aye. And against? Say nay. The ayes have it. Thank you very much.
With the activity of Brigham Academy in the wind here, I was involved with a committee a while ago that worked to try to get some activity going with Brigham Academy. This is like 5-6 years ago. Not to belittle anybody, but there was an extreme disconnect between the select board and that committee.
I don't know if the select board or anyone else has any information about the authority that this group has, but in my experience over the past couple of years, it's been hard to ascertain what kind of authority this group would have.
We have acquired a grant of $45,000 for planning purposes. We're at the end of that grant. We're ready to move to the next phase. The contractor involved wishes at this point to remain anonymous. There will be an informational meeting here at 5 o'clock, May 13th. At present, I'm not supposed to divulge too much information.
All right, Peter, have you signed like a non-disclosure agreement or something that you actually can't talk?
He has my word.
I don't know, it just, there's a little uneasiness with so much being in secret and a committee that is supposed to be working towards this with them not knowing anything about it. It seems, it's very unnerving.
To hear the word not allowed to speak, I guess the first thing I would say is, who is telling you that you are not allowed to speak about it?
In the past, when we've worked on this project, and Lynn McCall can attest to this, it has caused such a discontinuity in the community that it has actually hindered any progress that we could make.
By state law, the only items that town bodies can keep quiet are when they go into executive session to discuss it, and it has to be because premature disclosure of that would have an adverse impact on the town's best interest. I don't think that keeping something quiet because it creates a stir in town is a legitimate excuse to keep things quiet. I mean, I understand you gave your word, Lance, but I don't know that you have the right to do that under these circumstances. So the grant tells you that you should keep preliminary discussions secret?
No. That was a promise to the contractor.
Well, as I said, Lance, I mean, I understand the position you're in, but I'm just saying that in the future, I don't think you're authorized to make that promise.
I would like to make the amendment that we vote Article 18 as a block.
Oh.
Okay, there's been a request to vote 18 as a block. Do I have a second and a motion to amend?
I would really think that we would want to go through these line item by line item. I mean, these are very different organizations. I mean, we need to have somebody describe, what each of these organizations does, so we're going to be going through them anyway.
Okay, we're going to move to a paper vote. I apologize. The written ballots state that there were 32 yeses to amend this as a block, to deliver this as a block. There were 30 noes. So the yeses have it. Article 18, shall the town appropriate the following sums of money? This was an amended motion to vote these as a block, and the votes went to paper ballot, which is as such. There were 45 yeses or yays and 13 nays. The motion carries. The article carries. All associations will receive the funds.
Now we're back. Butcher Cowperthwait, Bridget, Higdon, Tim Smith, and our fine staff here. And we've got some results from Swanton Village and our guy, Mr. Paul Snyder, our exec director. Paul, you have some Swanton Village, and this is certainly results I was very interested in. This is some big stuff. What do you got for us?
Yeah, so one of the contested races that actually...
Probably help if I unmuted my microphone. One of the contested races we had in the area between Neil Spear and David Winchester. David Winchester actually coming up with 285 votes to Neil Spear's 275. And then the other contested race as well, Shane Mott with 203 and Susie Kelleher with 313. And then those are just the races for there. We also got some results, again, unofficially from the Swanton Village Clerk. For the public safety facility was voted down 444 to 130. So those are the more contested and to be thought of as very important ones to talk about. So.
Thanks, Paul. Yeah, that was, I definitely, I kind of thought the public safety facility, we've been talking about just school budget concern, I didn't think that, and the village officials certainly worked hard. They, how many, I'm sure you guys were on top of that, they had so many.
37 or something.
Yeah, just all kinds of, chances for people to, and I think even a lot of the opponents, I'd like to think, I do think a lot of the opponents to that project realize something has to be done, but I think it might have been more of a sticker shock, just more than they were willing to spend. But boy, for folks who know the Swanton Village Police Department headquarters, and I guess we're going to be talking to the chief later on, but pretty cramped anyway. But boy, that's a pretty decisive defeat for
Yeah, sure.
for that.
So it would have been a facility for the fire department and the police together.
Yeah.
It was that number 37 had to do with the open houses that village manager Bill Sheets had, given tours of the facility to show people, the size of it and the condition of it, and hopefully persuade, for that new facility. But unfortunately, I think you said that sticker shock was just too much at this time.
Yeah, Neil Spear, of course, that was his first contest too. Village officials obviously put a lot of time into this, obviously supported this, so I suspect that may not have helped Neil Spear too much, being a supporter, and David Winchester, who I interviewed those folks separately, couldn't get Neil to sit down together with David, but David opposed the project, but acknowledged something's got to be done, but just wasn't happy with the proposal that came out, so looks like a lot more work for those guys to come up with something. And
Yeah,
again,
that'll be a newer, younger voice on the, trustees.
Some new voices.
So that'll be interesting to see what else he can bring.
And also we have Susie Kelleher beating Shane Mott for the village trustee spot, and she told me she kind of ran as a team with David Winchester, so that'll be definitely a new look there. That'll be pretty interesting. And again, Chris Leach, Swanton Village, I know they dedicated in the town report, village report, to Chris Leach, and I knew he had been on the board for a long time. I didn't realize 28 years. I mean, talk about an incredible hunk of public service. That's a long time. So so definitely a new look to the village here. We'll be following that story pretty much.
Richard, I just add to, we had Chad Spooner retire from the city council at 15 years, and I thought
that's a long time.
Thought that was a long time. But
It's a long time.
28 years, dedicated service. That's impressive for Chris.
Yeah.
And he was always on top of. He knew the subjects. He had great input whenever we met with him. He was a pleasure to work with, but he came prepared to every meeting. And he knew the village and town very well. So
When I interviewed the village officials, talked to Chris at some length that show, and he said in 28 years he thought he had missed maybe a couple, 3 meetings. Unbelievable. I think we have some numbers from Paul. Paul, what do you got for us?
So just got the Enosburg Town. The Enosburg Town results coming in. Larry Gervais and Jess Eagles both winning, being incumbents for their respective select board positions. And then the budget town passed. The school budget, as we talked about, did fail in the Enosburg side, 177 to 198, and all appropriations for the town budget passed. Did get a couple extra numbers for Sheldon and Montgomery for Northern Mountain Valley. Still waiting on Bakersfield and Berkshire, but right now a real tight race for their budget. So far, yes, 258, no, 257, and again, that's without Bakersfield and Berkshire numbers still coming.
Wow, a one vote difference.
A one vote difference so far.
So again, you had the numbers for the Enosburg half of the school district. It's with Richford, right?
We're still waiting on Richford, correct?
So I guess Bridget, if Richford approves that by more than Enosburg defeated it, then it's passed. Do they group those numbers together? I guess
Yes, I believe that's how it works.
Yeah, I believe that's how it works. Interesting. Wow. Okay. So St. Albans City, again, turnout, not bad. You mentioned Ward 5. That's a pretty good turnout in Ward 5.
I think so,
Yeah.
I think when we look back at the race with Newell Decker and Jamie Pinkham, I think Newell won with 46 votes on that.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
for 48, it was 48 to 42. There was a minimal amount difference, but they didn't break 100 total votes.
Wow. I'm sure a lot of people know this, Tim, but I'm sure there are a few folks out there maybe tuning in for the first time who don't. Just want to mention the big, people might think that the mayor of St. Albans gets paid something for his job. This guy is the mayor. For the record, nothing. You know, that $10 a month, I guess a few years ago, they thought that was too much for you folks. As a longtime St. Albans city resident, this is absurd to me that you guys don't get something. But for the record, that might come as a surprise that the mayor of St. Albans has paid nothing for his efforts and your city councilors.
I hope people don't think any less of me, Richard, because of that.
I would think just the opposite. They'd probably think a lot more of you, but I'm glad you have a pretty solid day job.
I can negotiate my speaking rates.
Yeah,
but after 6 years, I've yet to be asked to speak anyplace. So,
right. You think I'd remember when did they do away with the $10 a month?
I think it was. I was told when Pete DeLaurier was mayor.
Yeah.
And I think it was 15 years ago because Chad Spooner brought it up that the budget did not pass, and as a gesture, the council voted to turn their pay in.
Wow,
And
$10 a month.
It's been that way for at least 15 years.
Yeah,
So.
and the last time the city budget didn't pass was with I think Mayor Marty Manahan, then Mayor Manahan with the downsizing of the fire department that had some people concerned. I think that's the last time the city budget went down.
You know, I talked to Marty, asked him what the most
now
difficult.
You're still your public works chief, I guess, right?
So I talked to Marty about his most difficult piece of being the mayor back then, and it was a reduction of the fire department, for sure.
I bet.
So.
No, I mean, I give folks credit for doing what are going to be obviously unpopular things, and also mention this to you, I think, give then Mayor Manahan credit when St. Albans was getting not good ink, not good PR about just having crime being a pretty serious issue. And you got to think some folks in some communities would just try to run and hide from that issue, but with Mayor Manahan and the council did just the opposite. Then Senator Patrick Leahy came to town with, I think, a Senate subcommittee looking into some of those issues.
Yep. No,
So you certainly addressed it head on.
You're exactly right. And it's taken a number of years to get beyond the drug image, I guess. And
And just having the 50th anniversary of the Paul Lawrence affair just a little while ago.
Mm-hmm.
So, and many thanks go to past mayors and current city manager for sort of the revitalization of the community. So,
you run into a lot of comments about St. Albans, Bridget. Do you get the feeling people are pretty impressed with what's going on in St. Albans?
I think so. I mean, certainly with the growth of the downtown and what that looks like these days, Taylor Park, it's really quite beautiful and lots of economic development happening there. You know, you do still hear concerns about public safety and about homelessness, and those are not unique to St. Albans, so that's happening across the state.
Well, you're sure right about that. And speaking of public safety, July 1st, St. Albans City PD takes command again in St. Albans Town for the first time in a number of years.
yeah, I think it will prove to be a great initiative, if you will. I think it's allowed the city and town to work closer together, even on some other discussions. You know, I'm not insinuating anything, but the town's reviewing where they stand on their fire and new building.
Right.
And I think the city will be part of that discussion as well, just to see how we might fit in. So.
Can you picture the M word merger? I mean, maybe down the road, city and town fire department, still hard to picture?
I'm only looking out for the next 2 years, and I don't think that will happen in the next 2 years, Richard.
Of course, Matt Mulheron is chief of both the city and town fire departments, correct?
Yeah.
With Bob Cross having stepped down after a pretty legendary career as a town fire chief.
Bobby did a nice job.
Yeah.
I think that when you talk merger, it's tax rates, right? I mean, the town tax rate is 48 cents on the dollar, and ours is 103. So unless you can figure out how that merger is going to sort of match up in terms of tax rates, I don't see that happening anytime soon.
Yeah, I'm probably right about that. Hey, we're going to get a kind of a first-hand report from the Franklin Town meeting. Bryce Batchelder joining us and going to give us a lowdown. Bryce, thanks for jumping in, and how things go in Franklin today.
Hey everybody, thanks for having me. Overall, another good town meeting. you know, we had to pause town meeting during the COVID years. Last year, we were able to pick it back up, back at it, kind of a good tradition coming back.
Any contests in Franklin?
Yep, go ahead.
I'm sorry, any contests in Franklin today for the select board or whatever?
Yes, that was actually probably the most exciting part of town meeting today. So we had 2 select board positions open, a 3-year term and a 2-year term. One select board member, Sam Jarvis, stepping down, so there was an open seat. The 3-year term, so that was a contested race. Jay Hartman and Michael Grant, and Jay Hartman ended up winning that seat. For the 2-year term seat, that was Andrew Godin, who was the incumbent of the seat, was running for re-election, and Michael Grant also ran for that 2-year seat. What ended up happening was there were 65 people in attendance. We had to go through 2 rounds of voting. The first round, Michael ended up with 32 votes, Andrew ended up with 31 votes, and then there were 2 votes for other people. And since neither candidate received the majority of votes, we had to re-vote. And then we ended up with the same tally, but going in the other way. So Andrew ended up with 32, Michael ended up with 31, and still 2 others. You know, a huge credit to Franklin, and I think the culture there with the town, that even when there's kind of, you know, a contested select board race, that everyone is still just looking out for the best of the town. So Andrew actually decided that Mike was a good candidate, and he decided to step down. And so Michael Grant is now one of our new select board members, and just want to send props to Andrew Godin, you know, for his decade on the board, and also just for saying Mike's a great candidate. It'll be good for us to have some fresh blood on the board.
Hey, you gotta love Vermont town meetings. That's great. What other kind of top of the line items? Town budget, school budgets fared well?
Sure, I don't know about the school budget
No, you don't know
quite yet.
school.
So
Town
we're
budget?
waiting for the school district to announce that. Town budget passed with no questions, but I think we were warmed up by a couple other monetary articles to vote on that got all the discussion out. We spent about an hour and a half on Article 4, money for a plow truck.
Wow.
There was an amendment that was discussed. Ultimately, the amendment was voted down, and so we did pass just what was asked for, which I think was the $238,000. Really, it came down to we going to spend the money for a tandem axle truck or try to save money on a single axle truck. Ultimately, the town decided to, you know, stick with the tandem axle, which is what we have now. I think the only other kind of notable items of discussion, of course, Lake Carmi and water quality there. We kind of found that the aeration system that they've been using the last few years isn't getting the intended results we want, so they are turning those off, removing all that equipment out of the lake, and we're going to start alum treatments, which is a little more expensive, but we're hoping that that might get some sort of impact. And then questions about the village water system. We've been trying to hook up a well to supplement the spring that feeds the village water system, but jumping through all sorts of hoops, and it's been delayed, not because of the town's fault at all, but sort of the longer it's delayed, kind of the more expensive it's getting, and we're still kind of waiting for that to get hooked up. As someone who lives on Main Street and is a part of that system, I'm very eager for that to be hooked up, and waiting for the state and contractors. So.
Okay, hey, we appreciate that report on the Franklin Town meeting. Thanks a lot for checking in, Bryce.
Absolutely, thank you.
Okay, we'll see you. And I think next up we have Swanton Village Police Chief Matt Sullivan joining us. Chief, are you out there?
I am.
Boy, I guess well, we just got the results of the proposed public safety building. Didn't fare very well on that.
No, it did not, unfortunately.
While we'll be talking about police, what about, we don't have the Swanton Town. Have you heard how Swanton Town did with the police protection article? Do you know how that fared?
Yes, it passed by a narrow margin, is my understanding.
Well, so you got something out of the day anyway, huh?
Yes, both our budget passed in the village and the contract passed with the town, so those are positives.
Wow. So what's next? Boy, it sounds like we have changes with, we have a new village president, a new trustee coming up, so some significant changes with the kind of the village hierarchy. What do you think, just on the proposed public safety building? Did you have a hope that that might pass, or did not much hope? What were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think with the feedback we were hearing, we did not anticipate that it was going to pass. It is unfortunate because we are out of room, and it's really the 4 different areas of the village, the electric department, Department of Public Works, the fire department, the police department, that all work, and the administration, all work out of this building, and we've completely run out of space. So the idea was not just to create a new public safety facility, but was to create more space for the other departments that work out of this facility. So we're going to have to just regroup and figure out Plan B.
All right, with Bridget Higdon from the St. Albans Messenger and St. Albans Mayor Tim Smith. Bridget, anything for the chief?
Sure. Thanks, Chief,
I'm sure
for
you
joining
do.
us this evening. You said the contract with Swanton Town passed, which included some more hours of coverage. Will you talk a little bit about maybe how those hours will be used, if you can?
Yeah, so we cover, it's a little different than, say, the sheriff's model, where they're contracting for hours, and then my understanding is they flex those hours, so there aren't set hours of coverage. We have set hours of coverage. So the current 56-hour-a-week contract, we cover from the town from 5 at night till 1 a.m. We're just going to expand that to meet because essentially we have 2 officers assigned to cover the town, and their shift starts at 4 p.m. and ends at 2 a.m. So that'll be the new shift coverage with the 10-hour contract.
And what will that extended day allow you to maybe do in Swanton Town, if anything? Are there more areas you'll be able to hit, or places you'll be able to see or do?
It just adds those additional hours of coverage, and it really matches with our patrol schedule. So again, we don't have the capacity, although we're lucky to be one of the only fully staffed agencies in the state of Vermont. At the same time, we are minimally staffed. And so, for example, I know there was a lot of consternation with the fact that the contract, the proposed contract that was approved, was more than double the old contract. But essentially, we estimate that one officer's salary and benefits cost about $100,000 per year. So we weren't even covering the cost of the 2 officers. The village was losing money on the contract for many years, probably for close to a decade, realistically. And so this was, I realize, a big adjustment, and we had some negative feedback associated with that big adjustment. But it's essentially fair and equitable. If you look at what other agencies are doing, the cost of policing is not cheap. So this is something that they will allow the village to now essentially subsidize police coverage for the town.
Chief, I made the point earlier, the public safety building. I talked to some folks who just thought the price tag on it was too high. But I guess I'd like to think there are not too many people in the village who think you don't need bigger headquarters. Do you get that feeling, or are you still running into some people saying, hey, what you have is good enough, or do you think there's an acknowledgement that you need to do something, but what was proposed didn't pass muster, obviously?
Yeah, so it's interesting. We held 37 open houses, which were open to the community. Unfortunately, we didn't have as much participation as we would have liked in those open houses. But I can say that even the people who had some negative comments, when they came through, we would have a presentation, a discussion, and then we would do tours of the facility. And I think pretty much everybody recognized that the police facility is inadequate. I mean, we are crammed into such a small space. We don't have any holding cells. And so we've run out of room. We don't have storage for our equipment. We really need more space here. So, and I realize it was a big ask as far as the bond goes. The bond service would have been roughly $457,000 per year. As far as the police side of things, fire would have been an additional cost. But, spread out over the tax base in and of itself, it wasn't a huge amount of money, but again, people just don't like their taxes being increased, and I understand that.
Chief, I was going to jump in to answer that question for you because I was amazed that where the trustees used to meet, there was a very small conference room, and you knocked the wall out to double the size of your officer space, if you will. I was totally, when I got my tour, I was totally surprised at the conditions that you were working under. And policing, as we all know, has changed over the last 10, 15, 20 years, right? I hope you guys come up with a solution that's going to benefit your department moving forward. And I know that you have a great department, and hopefully you can keep headed down the direction you are. So good luck with that.
Thank you. I think one of the big positives with both our budget passing and with the town contract passing is we are going to be able to hire one more full-time officer and also a full-time administrative assistant. So those will be two things that will be a huge benefit for the agency. Officers, again, I made the comment that we're fully staffed, but at the same time, we're minimally staffed. If an officer calls out for shift, we have to scramble to fill that position. We will be able to fill the 2 open shifts on the weekends once we hire that additional officer. So that will be a huge benefit, and it will increase the morale of the officers who are scrambling to fill those shifts on a regular basis.
Gee, thanks for the time. I'm glad you got something out of the day. I'm glad you pulled off at least the Swanton Town vote, and sounds like a lot more work for the village folks to come up with a plan B, but good luck. Hang in there.
Thank you.
Thanks. Paul, do you have some new numbers for us?
Yep, so I just have some more, or what might be the final unofficial numbers from Northern Mountain Valley Unified School District is the budget was voted down 548 to 499.
548 to 499?
Voted down, correct.
Boy, there we go. And again, those are, we're talking Bakersfield, Berkshire, Montgomery, Sheldon.
Yes.
We're hard to keep track of the school districts. Right?
Yeah.
So that was we
four
don't have
elementary
it seems like Missisquoi numbers often come in pretty late. We don't have Missisquoi and Maple Run, no Maple Run. Boy, I don't think the Maple Run budget has ever gone down. Tim or Bridget, correct me if I don't think it's ever gone down. Boy, you wonder about this year.
It's been a long time. Yeah.
Been a while anyway.
I thought last year it had a good chance of going down because of once again, a substantial increase.
Yeah.
And
passed pretty easily. Did it not, or not so?
Yeah, it did. I was surprised how easily it did pass. So.
Wow. Well, as we've been talking about, yep, we thought school budgets might have a tough time.
So what they'll have to do now is, obviously the board will have to get back together again and sort of relook at the budget and take some things away, and it'll have to be voted on again by the public before June 30th.
And again, the legislature with its kind of last-ditch effort when they took away that, 5% cap that and anyway, I guess no reason to get into the weeds too much here, but they also gave school districts the chance. I'm going, that's nice of you. You were just telling them you could put off your budget votes till April 15th.
Right.
I don't think anybody in Franklin County did that.
No, nobody did.
And what were they expecting? Hey, boards, go back and chop some millions. That didn't strike me as being worth much, but I guess some votes were delayed.
But in the whole scheme of things, even though it goes back and school boards may make some cuts, the impact to an individual's tax bill is going to be minimal.
Right.
So if you look at like Maple Run, we were told as a council that they would have to cut $3.5 million to generate a 1 cent decrease.
And a ton of positions, yeah.
Right, it was equating to 30-something positions
Right.
or something like that, right.
So,
boy, the school situation just sounds like it's totally crazy. Anyway, we'll go from craziness to Brian Delorier, the re-elected chair of the St. Albans Town School Board. Congratulations, Brian.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Richard and Tim.
pretty solid win for yourself and Jack Brigham, defeating David McWilliams, who ran for both seats. Your budget, that was basically the one article on there. Not exactly overwhelming approval, but you still got approval for the budget.
It's horseshoes here, so we got past it, so thank goodness. It was close. I was worried about it. I think, one of the things that just made it tight, I really think, was the school budgets being high.
Yeah.
A lot of negative, discussion out there about the school budgets, and I think it just created the thought for a lot of people to just think all budgets are going up too much. And ours did. Ours went up a lot. Ours went up $1 million.
Of course, the police protection issue, police coverage issue, a big part of that.
99% of our increase was the police line item. Now, unfortunately, it looked more bloated than it actually was because $200,000 or so of dispatch, expenses that we had moved from other parts of the budget to the police line item. So it made the police line item increase seem even bigger than it really was. But at the end of the day, almost 55% of our voters voted to pass that budget, where to me it was really a mandate on the police budget, and in some ways a mandate on working with the city, which is something that's been important to me. As long as it benefits the town, and this certainly does, it also benefits the city, it benefits the entire area. So I'm really glad that it passed. Plus, I wasn't looking forward to 4 or 5 more budget meetings, to be honest with you.
Not bad. Bridget, you want to jump in?
Sure. Brian, can you tell us something that you learned being in the leadership role, maybe in the last year or so, in that chair position? What has that taught you?
That I would say, and this is partly not just being in the leadership role, but being out there on the select board, I never know what issues are going to catch people's attention, right? $7.1 million budget. We have about 2 people that show up. They might put a small building down on the prison site, and we've got 80 to 100 people there, right? So I didn't realize that's what would catch people's attention. But that, and I would say too, Bridget, just even in the last month or so, the last time I ran unopposed, right? So as long as I got a couple votes, I'm in. This time around, actually having the campaign and seeing kind of what that support looks like, that was a nice surprise, because for the last 3 years, I'll be very honest with you, you're down there, you kind of hope you have people's support. You're doing the best for them, and you hope you're representing as best you can. So for me tonight, it was just a little bit of verification that people are glad I'm down there.
Good.
Tim, I know you've told me that you weren't looking at this point anyway to set a record in St. Albans City for longest serving mayor, which of course is held by Brian's uncle Peter Delorier, but who knows? You didn't have to sweat this re-election. Anyway, anything for Brian there, Tim?
No, other than the fact that, working with Brian and Jack and the rest of the select board, I think has been one of the better communication combination between the 2 boards. I know when, just over the years, we've gone so far down the road, and then there's a new council or new select board that comes on board, and then we take a couple steps back. That's not the case with the current select board there and our current council, for sure. I'd just like to say, Brian, I think what we, 2 years ago, the big conversation was defund the police. And now we're looking at a lot of conversations, whether it's in Swanton or Highgate soon to be, and city town, that people want a strong police force. Maybe they may have disagreed with what the structure is, and the city and town now are addressing that with 2 embedded social workers within the police force, which
and that advisory board also.
And the advisory board,
community members weighing in.
So we're seeing a change of structure, but people still feel the need to have a safe community and have a strong police force. So it's been with the town, it's been a big step forward on many fronts, and the police being the biggest one. So
Brian, again, congratulations on your reelection, getting the budget passed, and I'm sure you'll find plenty of other work to be doing in the coming months. But thanks for joining us.
There's more to do. Thanks, guys. Have a good night.
See you, Brian.
We'll see ya. Okay, we're going to be coming up with some video from Highgate, where I spent 4 hours today, and I'm kind of sad. It's the last traditional town meeting in Highgate, unless voters have a change of mind down the road. But we've got some good video from Highgate coming up, and we'll be back in a bit.
I don't remember being that.
Informational meeting before it gets put in the book or official to vote on it. That would be a lot better, and a lot of people would more tend to go, because that would be a way of doing it where more people get involved in everything in the town, rather than a handful decide, everything.
That's called the first and third Thursday of every month. The select board meets at 6:30.
I guess my question is that before it gets put in the book and gets official, have a meeting before that. And that way everybody had a chance to see.
They do, John, they do it,
everybody.
that's the informational meetings.
Okay, you're answering your own question by your own question. It ain't the same it used to be.
I'd like to know who keeps nominating this. Who's advocating the stop town meeting?
I'm gonna let Richard answer that question.
I will briefly say that I believe it was you that tabled it last year. By law, we were legally required to bring it back up this year because of that.
Because it was tabled?
It got tabled last year, and I believe it was you.
Yes, it was me, and the year before too. But, so we'd be better off.
I'm in the under 45 crowd, and one of the first things that I did was join the planning commission. So it's not that we don't want to be involved, it's that the burdens of today are a lot different than they were 25, 50 years ago, right? Most households require 2 incomes to keep the household going, right? The housing market now is not what it used to be, right? Childcare is its own mortgage. I'd be surprised if a quarter of the people here are in that under 45 crowd, and it's not because we don't want to be. We are the new generation coming in, and we want to make this town a place that we want to raise our children. And so I don't want you to think that it's not because we don't care, it's because our responsibilities are different. And we want to be as invested as everyone else.
Does anybody remember the Missisquoi Valley Union District meetings at Missisquoi High School, where there would be several hundred people get together and we would have rousing debate? Remember some characters that would be very vocal during those meetings, and that was because there was a vote on the budget. And a few years ago, that went to Australian ballot. Now when they have an informational meeting, I don't know if they have 5 people that come. It disappeared. That disappeared from Franklin County forever because they went to Australian ballot. So in that case, it was the 3 communities getting together, Swanton, Highgate, and Franklin. It doesn't happen ever anymore. So that's what's going to happen. I think there's already been several people that have mentioned that informational meetings are unattended. Nobody goes. Throughout history in Vermont, and I've been not 57 years, but almost that, coming to these meetings, it's always been a select few who come. Those who want to come, come. And those who, there's a small percentage that, yes, can't get here, but most of the time, if you want to get here, you can get here. And I'm thinking that it would be a loss for Highgate, because a lot of you people that I'm seeing here today, I will see you next year here, and maybe once in a while in between. But you're talking about eliminating a tradition that goes deeper than just money.
And I think people that come to this meeting, they get here because they want to be here. And the apathy that is shown throughout the year on the informational meetings, the select board meetings, everything else, that's just the way of life. And people that show up, that make their voice heard at a meeting like this, that's what really counts. And so I would like us to keep this tradition going. And just because these are the people that care. Thank you.
Hello again, everyone. Richard Cowperthwait. We're continuing with our Town Meeting Day 2024 coverage, and very happy to have alongside Bridget Higdon, the managing editor of the St. Albans Messenger, and just re-elected St. Albans Mayor Tim Smith. Folks, doing fine work. Good to have you on board tonight. Some pretty interesting results out there, and in fact, I was especially interested certainly in Swanton Village. There were a couple of contests, first contests in years, proposal for a public safety facility with a big dollar sign, and we have the winner of a very closely contested race for Swanton Village President, David Winchester, the challenger to Neil Spear. And at least our unofficial numbers, David Winchester defeating Neil Spear 285 to 275 for a one-year term as village president. And I believe we have the village president newly elected in front of us. Congratulations, David. We can see you. We're not hearing you right at the moment. We have some of our best people looking into this. But so again, Swanton Village was certainly getting a lot of attention. I guess we're told it's on your end. And again, we can see you, but I'm not very good at reading lips, so I guess I'll keep talking here.
Okay.
Oh, there we go. You're good. Again, congratulations. I kind of thought that might be a tight race, and it was just. Are those the numbers? Are those the numbers you have? 285 to 275.
I just got them like 5 minutes ago, so I'm assuming that's been double checked and certified. It was on the village page, Facebook page.
So I assume you thought you had a chance. Did you think you had a good chance? Were you expecting a close race? What do you think?
I figured it would be close, yes, but a really amazing amount of turnout on the village side. We usually don't see this kind of numbers for a town meeting day.
I mean, it was the first contest in Swanton Village, I think, in years, and the first contest for Neil Spear, the now outgoing or former village president. How much were you helped? I know I interviewed both of you folks. You were opposed to the public safety facility as proposed. Was that? And that went down. That went down hard. 441 to 130. I assume that helped you hugely with your victory. I assume.
I'm sure it did. And maybe just about people wanting a change. But it was very tight race for sure. It's very hard to unseat somebody as popular as Neil's been for so many years. And we had a nice day hanging out together and talking about all the different particulars. And I wish Neil the best when I left. But it started to rain, and that's kind of where we left it this evening. I haven't had a chance to reach out to him or talk to him since. And like I said, I just found out this information like 5 minutes ago.
Wow.
But I want to thank everybody from Swanton for showing up, for your support, especially for Susie as well. Susie did really well in her town test. So.
And again, Susie said I guess you said the same thing to me. You ran kind of as a team.
We did.
And again, we had Susie Keller. We had Susie Kelleher defeating Shane Mott 313 to 203. Hey, a veritable landslide compared to your win.
Yes. Yes.
Bridget, something for David here? We got Bridget Higdon here, David, from the Messenger. Sorry.
Yes. Hi, David. We met earlier today outside the poll. Yes. Hello. Tell us a little bit about how you campaigned. What did you do to get out in front of people and to share your platform?
Well, social media was a big help. Richard's program was a big help. The Messenger articles were a huge help as well. We did mailers and just campaigned and talked to people for a long time. So
How do you
I guess
plan
that's
to,
the best we could do, and just stood out there today and met and greeted people and talked and listened, and luckily the weather was on our side.
that's good.
For most of it.
How will you continue to communicate with people in the community about the work you'll be doing?
What's that?
How will you continue to communicate with people in the community about the work that you'll be doing?
Just try to keep people informed of what's going on and try to be more transparent to what we're going to be working on, hopefully. And, it looks like there's a lot to try to work on this next year as well.
Yeah, transparency was definitely a word that I heard a couple times today in different places. And I think it means maybe, it has one definition in the dictionary, but I think it means different things to different people sometimes. And so for you, what does that look like? Can you define that a little bit more?
I think a lot more conversation with the town and back and forth, and not trying to be, more as unified conversation, because what one side does affects the other side, especially on the village part of the equation. I mean, it was amazing how many people who came by and realized that they couldn't vote for us and thought that they could. And they've lived in the community for a long time and still don't quite get the difference between the two and the limitations on the village side versus the town side, or vice versa.
Sure. Great. Well, thank you so much for joining us tonight, David. We appreciated having you on here, and best of luck to you.
Well, thank you, and thank you for everybody out in Swanton. Have a good night.
Thanks, David.
Congratulations, David.
Thanks, David.
Yeah.
Have a good night.
Yeah, take
Thanks,
care.
David. And we're turning our attention to Paul. Paul, you got some new stuff for us?
Yep, so some of the results that we gathered throughout the day, one of them included Montgomery. Leanne Bernard, 77 votes to Merle Van Geysen, 20. And then for Select Board for the 2 years. And then for Select Board for 3 years, Mark Brulette was a voice vote for just a unanimous voice vote. And then the town budget also passing by a voice vote as well. And it looks like all articles passed from the floor too. So that's Montgomery.
Very good. From us, covered Bridgeton. The smallest, speaking of Montgomery, we've got some video coming up from, Fletcher. Tim, I think Bridget. Fletcher was the smallest Franklin County town in my earlier years up here, but I think Montgomery's had that for a while now. Fletcher certainly had some growth being closer to Chittenden County. Interesting. Okay, we've got some video from us, covered Bridgeton, the town of Montgomery. We'll be back.
Okay, with a vote of 77 to 20, Leanne Barnard has been re-elected to her term on the Select Board. Congratulations, Leanne. Article 2B, Select Person for 3-year term. This is again a ballot vote. Mark Briette's term is expiring. Are there any nominations for Select Person?
Mark Briette?
Mark Briette has been nominated. Mark, do you accept?
Yes.
If there are no objections, we will direct Charlie to cast one vote for Mark Briette, and Mark has been re-elected to the Select Board for a term of 3 years. Congratulations. Article 2C, Lister, 3-year term, again a ballot vote. James Walsh's term is expiring. Are there any nominations for 3-year term for Lister?
Nominate James Walsh.
James Walsh. If there are no other nominations, without an objection, we can direct Charlie to cast one vote for James Walsh to a term of 3 years for Lister, and we have elected James Walsh. Congratulations, James. Article 2D, Lister, for the remainder of a 3-year term to expire in 2026. Merle Van Geysen has been appointed, and this is a ballot vote. Again, this is the remainder of a 3-year term that will expire in 2026. Are there any nominations for Lister?
Merle Van Geysen.
Merle's been nominated. Merle, do you accept? Merle accepts. Are there any other nominations for the position of Lister? Hearing no other nominations, if there are no objections, we can again direct Charlie to cast one vote for Merle Van Geysen. for the remainder of the 3-year term? Hearing no objections, direct Charlie to cast one vote for Merle Van Giesen to complete the 3-year term that expires in 2026. Merle, congratulations. All in favor of Rob Barnard as the collector of delinquent taxes serving the remainder of the 3-year term to expire in 2026, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say nay. Congratulations, we have elected Rob. All in favor of electing George Gabuzda for the 5-year term for Village Cemetery Commissioner, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say nay. Congratulations, George. All in favor of Cindy Gilchrist for the position of Center Cemetery Commissioner for a 5-year term, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it. Congratulations, Cindy. All in favor of Remy Grattan serving as Library Trustee for a 3-year term, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say nay. Congratulations, Remy. All in favor of Nicole Landerman as serving as the Library Trustee for a 3-year term, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say nay. Congratulations, Nicole. All in favor of Carmen Carroll as the Library Trustee for a 3-year term, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say nay. Congratulations, Carmen. The ayes have it. Article 2M, Fire Commissioner for a 2-year term. William Baker Sr.'s term is expiring. Nominations.
I'd like to withdraw my name. I've had this job for over 35 years, and I'm going to give it up.
Can you give a round of applause for your service? All in favor of Doug Kovacs for the position of Fire Commissioner for a 2-year term, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say nay. Congratulations, Doug. Shall the voters accept the fiscal year 2025 budget of expenditures not to exceed $1,330,002, of which an estimated $1,019,445.65 shall be raised by taxes, and authorize the Select Board to set a tax rate sufficient to provide the same? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say nay. Nay. The ayes have it, and we have approved Article 6.
So if we do
Thank you all for another successful town meeting.
Greetings again, everyone. We're continuing with our coverage of Town Meeting Day 2024 here in Franklin County. I'm Richard Cowperthwait. Thanks for watching us here on Northwest Access TV with Bridget Higdon, the managing editor of the St. Albans Messenger, and just re-elected St. Albans Mayor Tim Smith. Good to have you on board, folks. And I believe we have one of the candidates who won a Swanton Select Board race, Nicole Draper. Nicole, we're hearing unofficially you won your re-election race. Can you confirm as much?
Only unofficially at this point.
What have you got? What have you got for unofficial numbers?
I have not had any official numbers yet.
Okay, but
still waiting on those.
But unofficially, you're getting the word that you were re-elected?
Correct.
And what about the other contested race, Joel Clark, a fellow incumbent with you, and Amy Raymond?
Unofficially, I believe Joel Clark won the seat.
Okay, and we heard earlier that I guess kind of the big issue was the big increase in police protection that Swanton Town residents were asked to approve, and we heard that did narrowly pass. Is that the word you're getting?
I have not heard that yet, other than from you folks. I'm still, again, waiting on those results from our clerks.
Okay, hopefully we're getting accurate information. So again, was this, tell us about, was this a tough re-election fight, or how did you see this coming? Certainly Swanton was getting a lot of attention both in the village and the town this time around.
They were, and participation showed at the polls today, which was something that I thought was just wonderful to see. A lot of people engaged in voting in the process, which I think measures to controversial issues, but it's really nice to see everybody getting out and participating.
Yeah. Police protection, that seemed like the big issue. Is that the big issue, and certainly concern about a big increase in the police budget?
It definitely was a big increase in the budget, and I know a lot of people were really not happy with that price tag, but I felt that it was important for us to continue our contract with the Swanton Village Police as it creates consistency within our community. And I think that the town heard that and they voted accordingly.
Bridget, you want to jump in?
Yeah, sure. So you also wear sort of another hat in that you're the leader of the recreation department there in Swanton. And
Correct.
so one of the conversations I know Select Board has been having is around a recreation center in Swanton. There's been some discussion about where it would go and what it would look like. Can you talk a little bit about maybe what's next in that conversation?
Absolutely. So we have started that conversation with the Select Board. The Board of Directors for the Rec Department is building a fundraising committee. We've also been on the search for a grant writer to help us cut the cost to the taxpayers. And then we didn't want to bring it to vote this March, as we know the taxpayers already had a lot of things on their plate. So we're really working hard on building a really solid proposal for the community. But we definitely need more space at the rec department.
Yeah, sure. You're running so many programs out of there. I know that are, somebody at the polls today came up to me and said how much they, wanted to support the recreation department. And so that's a testament, I'm sure, to your work and other people you've got on your team there.
Nicole, I've been hearing.
We do have a great team.
Nicole, I've been hearing that there was certainly nothing here that the town was ready to put on the ballot for town meeting day about the rec community center, but I'm hearing rumblings that you may try to, even raise more money locally and maybe not even go to a ballot item down the road, or is that not clear? Is that not clear at all at this point?
At this time.
Yeah, but I mean, that's a big issue for the town of Swanton. You certainly feel you need a bigger space for a community recreation center.
It's a hard one for me to answer. I mean, working for the rec department, I definitely see the need for space. We are very limited when it comes to space for programming, especially with the gymnasium, as our schools already have a very full schedule. And we'd like to be able to provide more programs for all ages, and we're just really lacking that space now. So having any additional space is something that I think is important for growth in our community as young families are looking for bridging out from Chittenden County. I think that's one of the things that folks look for is strong recreation, and there's definitely both with the rec department, but with just outdoor recreation in general, Swanton has a lot of things that they should be very proud of.
Tim, I can flash back to one of your former jobs as St. Albans recreation director. Thought of you when I was skating at Collins Pearly the other day in the old days. Sunday would get a big crowd, and after maybe half an hour, you'd get people going around the other way instead of going the whole way. But anything for Nicole?
Nicole, congratulations. Bridget stole my question about the potential rec center, but you also addressed through the voting process the police, public safety. What else? Do you have two other priorities or items that you think the select board would like to accomplish here in the next 2 years beyond?
So on our list of things, and one of the articles on the ballot is starting a capital investment fund, which is something I think is really important to maintaining our assets in the community. And I know that's something that the select board is working towards. And then with the Lamoille Valley Rail Trailhead about to break ground, I think that could also bring a lot of really good potential for the community.
Great.
Okay, Nicole, I guess we'll leave it there. Again, hopefully the information we got for your sake was correct, that you have been reelected. But thank you for joining us, and a lot of things going on in Swanton these days. Good luck with everything.
Thank you for having me. Have a good night.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, we've got, again, our hardworking folks who are around all over Franklin County today. We've got some video coming up from the Fairfield town meetings. We'll go to that, and then we'll come back and, I guess, wrap things up. We'll be back.
Article 3, to elect from the legal voters of said town the following officers. We'll start with nominations for one select person for a term of 3 years by ballot. Ron Bokash is nominated and seconded. Hearing none, I would ask the clerk to cast one ballot for Ron Bokash as select person for a term of 3 years. Floor is open now for nominations for one select person for a term of 2 years by ballot. David Persons has been nominated. Is there a second? Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, I would ask the clerk to cast one ballot for David Persons as select person for a term of 2 years. All in favor of property taxes being due and payable on the first Friday in the month of November, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. The ayes have it. Motion carried.
Excuse me, we thought you'd kind of like to know what we've been doing with your money. Last year was probably one of the biggest projects was the complete culverts changeover down by Danny and Robbie Horgan's. We used ARPA funds to do that. I think originally that project was supposed to be, we got a $175,000 grant, we had to kick in 50, and it wound up 3 years later when it got done, around $450,000 the cost. Well, our budget only went up 2.23%. Pretty much all the buildings, the new buildings, the infrastructure are all paid for except for, I think, 4 more years on the library.
Shall the voters approve 2024 expenditures of $176,589 for the Bent Northrop Memorial Library, $136,159 of which shall be raised by taxes, and $40,430 by non-tax revenues?
So first of all, business is absolutely booming at the library. We've got increases across all areas. 13,000 unique visits this year, that's up 5% more than last year. Our physical material circulation is up 17%. Adding to the collection, all the ebooks and audiobooks you can get, that's up to 80,000 different materials you can get for free. Programs and program attendance is up over 40% for both of them.
Article 12, shall the town of Fairfield discuss that there is an inconsistency between the town of Fairfield's land use regulations and the town of Fairfield's town plan that prioritizes the protection and ongoing use of agricultural lands?
We have a big surge in interest from townspeople, so this is absolutely the right time for us to move forward with this project. We'll be looking at our bylaws, making changes where necessary, making sure we align with the plan, and hopefully we'll have the vision that we all want to have for Fairfield.
That we've acknowledged that there are significant inconsistencies between the plan and the zoning regulations with respect to prioritization and protection and the ongoing use of agricultural lands. So given that we've acknowledged that that's true, I'm wondering if there should be some sort of a moratorium on permits issued until those inconsistencies are resolved.
So does this group have the power to say we want that town plan to be enforced as it was envisioned?
So I think if there's a feeling that the plan is not doing what it needs to do, the focus is on the bylaws to create the rules that will further that.
Emily Buron. So my name is Emily Buron. I grew up in Sheldon, Vermont.
Bridget.
I'm sorry.
Is she a town resident, a town voter?
Oh, I'm sorry. Are you?
So I own property in the town of Fairfield. I am not a registered voter, but this is an open meeting, and I think where the precedences would be the Vermont state open meeting law.
The Roberts Rule is the guiding principles here.
I thought that at the beginning of the outset of the meeting, you said that the Vermont state statutes would take precedence over Roberts law.
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So the total land mass of Fairfield, 76% of it is conserved. I'd say we're doing, it's in the town plan.
Correct. Current use land can be developed, it's not conserved.
Excuse me, Emily has the floor.
It was developed on Rug Road, and 65 acres removed from current use and turned into 7 residential lots within the last 2 years, people. Where were you then? I'm not giving any heed to the person that did that. Okay. No.
And good evening again, everyone. Richard Cowperthwait for our last segment here as we give you coverage of Town Meeting Day 2024 here in Franklin County. Thank you for joining us, and thanks very much to my colleagues on the set, Bridget Higdon, the managing editor of the St. Albans Messenger, and just re-elected St. Albans Mayor Tim Smith. Thanks a lot, folks, for your good work and all the folks working hard out here. Paul, you got some results from Berkshire and official St. Albans city numbers for us?
Yep, so for Berkshire, Todd Kinney being elected to the 3-year seat for Select Board, and then Mark Larrabee beating out Jason Jutras and Shanna Sherwood. And it looks like the budget also passed 164 to 107. And then over into St. Albans City, you have the budget passing 660 to 360. And then the Article 3, the TIF, passing 634 to 383, and then a very tight race for the mayoral race. Tim Smith coming away 956 to 27 write-in votes.
And again, the Eric Johnson, Bob Farrar quote.
Eric Johnson, 157 to Bob Farrar did receive 58 votes, and then there was one write-in vote as well.
Right. Thank you very much, Paul, for your
Very
efforts.
welcome.
Again, that was the case that Bob Farrar withdrew from the race, so a new city councilor. Mr. Mayor, do you have any concern at all about the budget and TIF votes? Always a little concerned?
I thought you were going to ask if I was concerned about my reelection at
No,
any
I
point.
think we,
No, I really did not. I mean, what more could we have done as a council? A 0.6% increase. And then the TIF, I think, has spoken for itself over all these years. You know, I've told you, Richard, on your show that hardly a day goes by when I do not receive a compliment from someone, whether it's a relative, a visitor, a local resident, about how great the city looks and how proud they are of, if it's a resident, how proud they are of how the city looks. And I'd like to think that those successes have spun over to some of these other communities like Swanton, with what they've done downtown, like what's going on in Highgate, what's going on in Montgomery with the water and sewer and the
Sure, their streetscape, yeah.
And in Enosburg as well. So I think I don't want the city to take all the credit, but I think it sets an example of what communities can do when they put their mind to it. There's enough resources. There were enough resources with ARPA money during COVID. So. I wasn't surprised by the TIF. I think people are very appreciative of where the city's at, and we still have a couple more projects and where that ends up. So,
Can you speak to what'll happen next with the TIF now? That's going to be an apartment building that's going up downtown.
Sure.
So what's next in that project?
So we have two. There's some part of the 1.2 million will go towards the Federal Street streetscape, or the transit route, if you will. We had $200,000 invested in brownfields for the courthouse, which will be close to opening up with 8 new apartments in the downtown. I think that's one of the key developments downtown. I mean, the courthouse sat vacant for more than 20 years, and to see it today is just it's just amazing how far it's come. And that's, you know, the vision of Jim Cameron, and Jim Cameron did. Renovated the American House, or excuse me, St. Albans House. So, and then the other large chunk of the TIF is going towards more apartments in the downtown area. We hope to tear down the backside of the Bellevue building, which many people know as where the subway was, and then putting the apartments on the backside.
Sure.
I think you know, we're going to have an announcement in April about another housing development in the Fonda site. So we think we're headed in the right direction, and but it'll be curious now that the challenge begins. The TIF goes away. So where do we need to be more creative on the funding for sure, and the attraction of other developers. So
sure,
it's going to be interesting next 2 years.
Yeah. We certainly hear a lot about housing. Sounds like St. Albans is sure sounds like you're doing your share on the housing front.
Yeah, I think you know, we have Beta that moved into the Energizer building. They are housing is key to attracting employees. The hospital's on board, NCSS. I mean, Perigo, Milan. They're all looking for homes, for new employees. And when they find them, when there's housing available, they find their employees, so.
That's right. Bridget, what struck you most out of it? And I'm sorry we don't have more school budget numbers. We talked about that,
know,
but
yeah.
boy, you got to think when the dust clears that I suspect there may be a number of school budgets going down.
Sure, that'll certainly be the news tomorrow, I think,
Yeah.
is taking a look at the state of the school budgets, and not only here in Franklin County, but across the state too, and what the legislature might do about that, or individual communities themselves, sort of taking a hard look at what they have and what they might be able to do without, or whatever it might be. That's definitely a headline from today. I think the Australian ballot, I think it's, that was also on the agenda today in Georgia, which we don't have results from yet, but that could have been the last town meeting in Georgia as well, so we'll wait to see what happens there. What else? I was going to mention to you when you were talking about the downtown in St. Albans is that the city owns the Sheldon Theater now, and that is something that is staying open. Despite what some people might have said on social media or things like that the Sheldon Theater is staying open, and it's part of the, recreation department. You got that programming all together now, so it'll be neat to see what sort of comes out of that partnership, I think.
Looking forward to seeing Dune Part 2. In fact, myself, one of these nights, I've been trying to get there for the last week.
No, Kelly Vans and the rec department, they've done an outstanding job. We've spent money to clean it up and fix it up, and I think people appreciate that. I think the movie theater is key to a vibrant downtown. Some people may not think so, but I think when you have people staying in the area, they want a place to go and visit and do activities, and I
Sure.
think the movie theater will be key to that. So,
Sure. That's certainly something that draws, I would say, as, the both younger and older populations of people to a community, I think, is having arts programming like that. And I'll be curious to see, I think that's also another takeaway from today, is sort of these, I don't want to say dueling generations, but it does sometimes feel that way, in that you've got an older population who, would like to keep taxes lower and things to stay maybe the way they were traditionally. And then you've got newer people moving into the county, people who've been either pushed out of Chittenden County because of housing challenges or whatever it might be, who are now making a home here in Franklin County and are looking for those vibrant downtowns and exciting recreation departments and events and local centers and things like that, good jobs. And so I think that was certainly on display too, is, those sort of different values that do align in a lot of ways, but are sometimes different as well.
I think on that note, we're going to have to call it a day. And a quick Chittenden County note, we're getting the word that progressive Emma Mulvaney Stanek is the new mayor of Burlington, the first woman mayor of Burlington, defeating Democrat Joan Shannon. Anyway, thanks very much to Bridget Higdon, managing editor of the St. Albans Messenger. Folks, you'll read a whole lot about what's going on today in the Messenger. Keep reading the Messenger. Hang in there, Bridget, with the Messenger, please.
Yes.
And thanks very much to St. Albans Mayor Tim Smith. We'd like to do another 2-year term. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
And really
Yes. Thank you
appreciate
to
the
Richard.
efforts of Paul Snyder, our executive director at Northwest Access TV, and all the hardworking staff who worked hard for this show. Josh Pryor in front of us here, Alan Cunningham, Katie Foster, Hunter Denault. I guess I haven't covered everybody. I hope I covered everybody. And thanks also for the folks, our guests for the show, and the folks who gave us information on town meeting night. So hope you enjoy the coverage. Thanks for watching us on Northwest Access TV. I'm Richard Cowperthwait, and we'll see you next time.